Lojo, you might as well tell everybody good evening
Pleasantries.
since AL left. He didn't disappeared and
Yeah,
froze on us.
and he came back. And
Yeah,
he
he did.
came back. What's good people? These are the fellas from Elevating. There we go.
All
You
right.
going in and out.
And so no, so Thanksgiving we got that coming up here in a couple of days. This is kind of a time where we start, here thinking about what we're thankful for. People are starting to make their New Year's resolutions, and so this is a time of reflection. And that's kind of like what we want today is reflect. For those of you that don't know, Elevating Men is now 2 years old, right? And so I want to first off thank everyone who into the live streams, making growing with us. We most definitely appreciate that. And I just like to start off by asking you guys, so since you have been a part of Elevating Men, like you made the decision to say, hey, I want to lock arms with a couple of brothers who are trying to families and the community around them. What has that experience been like for you? What have you been able to take away from it? And what areas have you grown? How do you feel about Elevating Men? And I'll start with you, Lawrence, as you're the vice president. So it better be.
Now, good evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I'll say the biggest piece for me is allowing myself to get outside of my comfort zone. And I think, for me personally, I can say that, I used to live by that Drake mentality of no new friend. So, when I was introduced to you, Andrew, I was kind of like, yeah, that's cool. I'm sure he's doing great things, but I don't want to make any new friends because I was afraid of, I don't know, maybe I was afraid of not being a good friend. So I just decided that I wasn't going to engage at all. But, it definitely opened me up to a different atmosphere, a different way of thinking. It allowed me to say, it's okay for me to not be perfect. And it opened me up to understanding that, there's a lot of us that kind of fight that battle of, perfection, not wanting to make mistakes and knowing that you have a brotherhood of people around you that you can always bounce ideas off of,
Yeah.
they're with you in the foxhole and things of that nature. So it's been the biggest piece that's allowed me to really grow and to flourish into where I am today.
Love it, love it, and definitely appreciate having you on board, man. You've been a big blessing, a big help, a support. Always can count on you for whatever's needed for Elevating Men or anything else, man. I'm feeling down or I'm feeling up. I want to celebrate. You've always been there, so I definitely appreciate that. LaRon, how has Elevating Men affected you? We've been 2 years strong, man. What are you thankful for?
Woo. Well, I tell you what, I'm thankful for every last one of you brothers on here because you all have done something different in different ways. Personally, in my life, especially like Lauren was saying, being able to bounce ideas off of another brother is so important because iron really does sharpen iron. And when you got a group of individuals who are sharp, it really only sharpens you. And so it's elevated my way of thinking, elevated my way of living, elevated my way of seeing things. Like when you have a community of brothers, I learned that each person, each individual in our lives are meant to help us in certain areas of our lives. And so, every last one of you on here has done just that. Challenged my brain, challenged me as a man, a person, a father. Just and has really held me accountable and kept me focused and up. So it's been so much of a blessing because this is rare. It's rare to have someone around you who cares about your success as much as you care about your success. Like, that's rare. And so to have this brotherhood, to have elevating men, what we really are elevating each other, elevating men, it's been so much of a blessing. And I'm just glad that I met you to be a part of this.
Definitely. Let me know if you guys can hear me and see me okay. I know my internet's a little crazy. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. LeRon, man, I have seen you grow so much, man, over the past couple of years. You know, the love that you have for your family and your children, the way that you display that, I believe is beautiful. I've watched you flourish as a speaker, as a motivational speaker, a life coach. I've seen you step into rooms that when we first met, you were hoping to get in, you know, and now you're there. And so very, very excited for you in the future and everything that holds for you. Andrew, this isn't your first time around with a group of men that you've worked with. And so, you know, some of the things that may be benefiting you now, it may not be the first time. I don't know. I'm very curious. So as for someone that I look up to and that I consult with in my own personal life, what is elevating for you?
So
He looks
elevating,
confused, or is the screen froze?
yeah,
Oh,
both of them. Elevating Men has done absolutely nothing for me. I know everything, so there's nothing anybody can tell me. I don't need any friends. My friends card is all full. I just, hey, all right. So now the commercial is over. So as a guy who is older now and continuously trying to find his relevance and his space and his importance and his value, continuously trying to reinvent myself. You gentlemen have given me life at this age going into my fourth quarter. And unfortunately, none of the things in my head are new. However, because I reference some of the things that others have shared with me, and you all listen to them, it gives me the opportunity to actually think that sometimes I've listened well enough to share, and then you all go and research to know for yourself. The beauty of that is, I'm really glad to have each and every one of you in my life, because at this stage, it's not much to do other than talk. So thank you.
Well, man, we're definitely love having you as a part of Elevating Men. You know, we talk a lot personally. You've helped me grow and really begin to look internally. Like I was maybe a surface level thinker. I think you've allowed me the opportunity to see ways that I could think a little deeper and just kind of past the surface. I would say that's one of the key things that you've helped me with, and I definitely appreciate that. And also structure and organization, planning. You always say, "What's your plan? What's next? What are you doing?" And I really appreciate that. I appreciate that, brother Mike. How you doing this evening?
Hey, how you doing, my brother? Good to see everybody.
Man, good to see you too. Good to see you too.
Buff faces, buff bodies.
Well, listen, brother Mike. So we're talking about Elevating Men and this whole journey that we've been on. Elevating Men is 2 years old. I don't know if you recognized it, but we started November 2020, and so we're 2 years old now. What we are talking about is what we're grateful for. Thanksgiving is coming up this week, time of the year where we begin to reflect, you know, review our goals. You know, did we hit them or not? We start to make new goals. You know, the new year's around the corner. And so you, in your own words, what are you grateful for with this journey with Elevating Men?
Well, I've had the opportunity to hear stories and attitudes and aptitudes and experiences from both sides. Not often do I have the opportunity and the honor to be able to sit down with these brothers that are half my age and even younger than that, to have a dialogue about things that concern them the most. And oftentimes we are so caught up in our past conditions and the quandary of life in the present that comes from the past that we don't understand how the present part right now and how we think can be developed by the newness of technology and the way we think to make things better later on. And these brothers here that we have just been astute. They've been very, not so much overly charismatic, but they're brothers of class. And being able to just listen to them, and then some of them even on Facebook when they make their different speeches and different things that they say, or openness of their way of thinking, I think is very much advantageous, and it's a positive point so far as the way I should change some of my old way of thinking. And then Brother Boykin and all, we've all talked and have off the camera type conversations. And I just appreciate the intellect, and I appreciate the relationship with you, Andrew, that we've developed, on many different facets of life, dealing with history, dealing with health and fitness, and dealing with the ministry, et cetera. And so I feel blessed. I feel better than blessed, because at this particular time, and I want the young brothers to understand this, there was a time we could not have our voice heard over any airway other than independent type of radio stations that we might see. We saw our voice heard basically through Arsenio Hall, which a lot of you probably weren't even born at the time. But now to have it over airways like this, with such a projection of intellect and vision, and like Brother Boykin says, where do we go from here? What's the plan? So where are we? And you all have come up with a lot of different ideas. But I say this, just don't forget your history, because if we begin to repeat history, we never will change the past. And so that kind of conversation, I really, really am so happy and so honored to be a part of.
Love it. Man, Mike, I appreciate you. You're one of those people that I can call and I know the job's going to get done, right? If I say, hey, we need some help with this or that, these are your words. Tell me if I'm wrong. You say, I just want to be of service, brother. And you always do. You always do. I appreciate that. Whether it's, making a phone call for someone I'm trying to connect with, or just being someone that, I can vent to. I definitely want to let you know here publicly that I appreciate you, each and every one of you. And so, as I said before, this is the time of year where people begin to reflect. They look at the year that they've gone through so far. They say, hey, am I hitting the mark? They start thinking about next year. They start planning. They start making goals. And there's going to be a certain segment of men that are going to say, I'm in the same place that I was last year and I don't like it. I want next year to be different. They'll notice that for the past several years, they've said, I'm going to hit these goals. I'm going to hit these marks, and they haven't hit them. And they're frustrated, and they're trying to figure out how to get unstuck, how to make 2023 better than the last several years. And so that's what we'll talk about today. How do we begin to break down the goals that we've made for ourselves, evaluate why we haven't hit them, and then begin to move forward so that 2023 can be better. Now, LaRon, I know that this is really kind of your wheelhouse as LaRon the motivator, the life coach. And so I'll give you the floor first and just give the audience a few tips, strategies, some thoughts around evaluating where they are today and really just moving forward and making the next year better.
Well. It's like this. I think it was Wayne Dyer who said, things change when you change, when we change. And I think a lot of times we think the beginning starts with a new year, but the beginning starts with a new us. A beginning starts with a change of mind. A beginning starts with us saying, you know what? I'm ready to be serious now. I'm ready to stop playing. I'm ready to stop talking. I'm ready for my life to change. And to be honest with you, nothing's going to change until we take on that attitude and mindset. We have to say, I'm tired of things being the same. We got to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. The truth of the matter is that a lot of us are not sick and tired of being sick and tired. We're just tired. But when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you do the things that you need to do. We stop making excuses. We stop being lazy. We stop procrastinating. We stop giving every reason for not doing what we know to do. And that's what it comes down to. Things change when you change. Because here it goes. Here it goes. our lives are going to continuously be what our lives have been in the past if we don't do something different. Don't fool yourself and think just because this is 2023, things are going to change. No, 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 no. If you don't make a decision today, right now, before this year ends, nothing's going to change. If you're not in the gym right now and you're waiting for 2023, you might as well say, I'm not going to do it. Because the truth of the matter is, change happens in the now, not in the future. And we got to look at ourselves in the mirror. We gotta really look at ourselves in the mirror and be honest. Because a lot of us haven't been honest with ourselves. I'm not gonna tell you anything fancy. I'm not gonna tell you anything that it's any strategy or technique, because the technique and the strategy is in your mind. The strategy and technique is saying, today I'm gonna do something different. If you're not willing to do something today, then don't think 2023 is gonna be different for you. I know it's hard, but I just got to tell the truth, Andrew, man. I just got to tell the truth.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Brother Mike, you had your hand up?
Yeah, alluding to what you were saying, what's the difference between being stuck and being stuck in a rut? And then when do you know you're in that rut?
That's me.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
For me, I believe that it's...
You see, and see what I'm alluding to is this.
Yeah, I'll give mine. So like when you say stuck in a rut, I believe that there has to be a certain level of self-evaluation and self-awareness that you have. And so life is a roller coaster. It goes up and down. And so it really becomes a point of view recognizing when you're going too far down, right? And then you say, well, wait a minute, I've been in this same state for too long. You know, and so for me, that's the definition of stuck. If one day I say, well, man, I'm tired. I can't really make it into the gym. That's one thing. I'm tired. I couldn't make it in. If that goes on for 2-3 weeks, you know, now I can identify that, you know, actually I'm in a rut and maybe I need to evaluate some different things. So that's how I do it for myself. LaRon, what would you say?
I mean, that was pretty clean. You definitely give yourself time to express how your emotions really feel. Never ignore that. But it's the length of time that you give it that becomes the problem. That's the problem. That's becomes the issue. When, like Andrew was saying, that if you're in there, you need to give yourself 24 to 48 hours. Then come out of that. Because at the end of the day, the rut, the situation is not going to change. So why keep bringing yourself in cycles if there's nothing that we can do about it? Now if we can do something about, do that, but don't allow those ruminating thoughts and those patterns to keep going on, because they're not helping. We got to find a solution, not keep dwelling on the problem. Go ahead, brother.
See, and I understand where you're coming from, brother.
Talk to me.
But the Bible brings out this whole point about Cain and Abel. Am I my brother's keeper? And when you are in a rut, you're stuck in something you can't see a way out of. So you become lazy and complacent into where you are. Now, the thing about elevated man and the whole dichotomy and the things that we're supposed to be doing and things that we're doing every week is to help say something. If you see something, say something, then do something to help a brother that's in something. Am I willing to go down the road to help my brother and then keep him, put something in him and interject something in him at a place where he is? Am I now at a point where I can talk to him and not down on him, pray for him in a way that we can talk to help him see and open up? This is the state I'm in. Now, with elevating men, with us, myself, I always come to a person with something I've been through that has got me out of where I was to the place to where I am. And if it had not been for somebody keeping me and God putting somebody in my life that gave me the wherewithal to open up now that heart that I have, I'll still be stuck in a mess. And a lot of times we're not in a mess just because of the system. Sometimes we're in a mess because of the mess we put our own selves in. So am I my brother's keeper? And yes. And so the thing about it is this, is that we have to share what we are. We have to help those that don't have. Everybody didn't grow up with a father. Everybody grew up in different type of situations, but everybody needs help in something. Am I willing to come up off of my I-ism and make it a we and meism, and now put ourselves in a place where we can share dialogue, we can spend time with people and not just get snippets, but now really feel in our heart that this brother, he really needs me and he needs my time and my place. I was talking to Brother Drew, he was heading off to Wichita, I think it was. We were just talking, man. And I says, look, I want you to make it there safe. The weather, it was a long way, it was late at night. I says, look, man, get yourself some rest. If you got to talk to me all the time and that would take to get down there 3.5 hours, then you talk to me. I'm not going to allow you to go down without being covered. So therefore, I'm willing to give the time. Are you willing to give the time? Some people have a limit in their minds about time. They don't want to live the next day because of the problems that they're facing them that happened the day before. And the mess that they're having now the next day. Now I'm there. The strong ought to bear the infirmities of the weak. But how many of us are willing to go down the journey with them and put ourselves now to a point where there's an understanding of that this person at least knows that he may not have the answer, but he's somebody I can at least talk to get me out of the quandary that I'm in.
I love that. I love that. Lauren, what you always mention and growing is that you didn't really trust people. Like you really didn't want to connect with other men. You really didn't want to have say deeper conversations because you felt that this person really does, or it's fake, or maybe in the past you've connected with men and it really just didn't go anywhere. You were disappointed. What would you say to someone who feels like that? Like, what is that first step in opening up? And because as Mike said, sometimes a way to get people who have a different mindset so that it isn't just you in your head with your negativity. How do you begin to step outside of yourself and make those connections?
Man, that's a great question. And it's actually kind of segues into kind of this holiday mindset, right? Because there's a positive holiday mindset and then there's a negative holiday mindset, right? For some people, this is it. This is it. Like they are at a point in life where they don't want to do it anymore, right? They just, I've tried. Nothing works. Nothing is happening for me. So I'm done. Like this is it for me. Like the suicide rate between now and New Year's is where the height of that of suicide is. And so for me, my advice would be just try one more time. Just really, truly try one more time. Allow yourself to be vulnerable for just a hot second. And that vulnerability, if you allow yourself to truly submerge yourself in it, will attract other vulnerable people, right? Or people that understand the importance of being vulnerable and are already in that space already. And I think a lot of the issues that guys like myself at least have as it relates to trust stems from our upbringing of not having a father enough. And what that means as you try to connect with other men, knowing that the man that brought you in the world wasn't you guys weren't connected. So how the heck can I connect with anybody outside of that circle, right? And so trust is a big thing, that has to be earned. But at the same time, you have to be vulnerable enough to open yourself up to be able to start that bond of trust within whatever circle you're engaging in, and just make it about one other person. It doesn't, if there's 10 people in the room, find one person that you can connect with, find one person that you could be vulnerable with, because that is the outlier that you need to catapult you to those next steps that allow you to truly open up and understand our, like my man AB says, how our 6 degrees of separation can actually bring us together.
I love that. Drew, so we had a breakfast on Saturday, where we all got together, and we just wanted to connect in person a little bit. Andrew was getting ready to leave town, and so we wanted to see him off and just have a good time. During that time, and this is for you, Andrew, you had a friend that you brought, and one of the things that he mentioned is that he never felt connected anywhere with any group of men ever. He felt as if his identity is that of a helper, where he comes in and he helps people, but he just never feels that connection. And so, just in the vein of connecting with other men for the sake of feeling unstuck or improving yourself, how can we as men who are trying to elevate and elevate other men, how can we create a more inviting environment so that when men come into our circle, they don't have those types of feelings? I mean, they can kind of let their guard down so that they can grow. Well, what does that look like?
So what that looked like for me, and now looks like to me, includes that question that we had a dialogue on at the end. Basically, knowing oneself. And what that means is knowing who you are, knowing what you are, knowing where you are, knowing when you are, knowing how you are, knowing why you are. When you have some of those answers for yourself, it helps you to not be as engaged, competitive, or distracted by the person next to you. What that also helps you to do is to be more in tune to that person who's next to you, especially if that person who's next to you is there for your reason, meaning they've been supportive to you, but you have not been supportive to them. Because had I known who I was a long time ago, wow, life would have been different. Had I known, to give you an example, who I am kind of goes with that song, and I'm getting ready to date myself. Mike knows it. By if you don't know me by now, you'll never know me.
Now,
Yeah,
you will never know
yeah.
me.
Hold on before you finish your statement. Now we young, but music transcends generations. So we know.
Man, now it's something that we don't know. Like we don't
You don't
know.
know. Hey man, you don't know nothing about that stuff. We had afros back in those days, boy.
See, y'all
wow, now that's news. Y'all had afros. Okay.
See, y'all just listen to the lyrics and the beat. I mean, y'all just listen to the beat so y'all can put a mix on it.
That's right.
If you don't know me, hey, but the thing is if I don't know myself by now, that means I'm still searching at this age outside of the answer. I am who I am, and I have not accepted that. It's time for me to accept that. What I am, and I wrote some of these things down. I am what I do. I'm also what I didn't do, or what I don't do. Not didn't, but what I don't do. As in present tense, that I still have the opportunity to do. Where am I? Where is where my feet are planted? That's exactly where I am. I'm not over there. I'm not over there. I must be present where my feet are. And if I notice that my feet are making going over the same tracks, then that's a strong possibility that I've not ventured anywhere outside of my comfort zone or my where. So wherever I want to be, I've only been going over these same tracks. When am I? I am always in my now. I am always in my now. And if I know that, that means I won't be trying to fix yesterday, and I won't be too far off into tomorrow. Yes, the restoration is way off into tomorrow because my now says that right now I'm about 19 years older than some of you all on here. And I don't want you all to be this guy 19 years from now. You have 19 years to listen to something different, consider something different, and possibly do something different. How? What did I write here? Not as well. How am I? Sometimes I'm not as well as I think that I am. I'm not as well as I wish I was, because I'm always seeking outside of myself. And if I don't accept how I am, then I can never work on that. I can never be okay with where I am, when I am, why I am. But the last one is why I am. These are my beliefs, my values, my reasons, or my lack thereof. If I have no reasons, if I have nothing to stand on, then I don't know why I am. I don't know why I exist. So basically, I thank each and every one of you all, and that gentleman that came, because you all are my newest circle. And what is my newest circle? But the new circle helps me to forgive my yesterday, because after we pour it all out and you all are still there, I can actually forgive my yesterday, and I can also somewhat forget those who intentionally want to remind me of my yesterday, because that's not you. So thank you.
And if I may say
I love
something
that,
what you
man.
just said, you know,
Yes, sir.
these young brothers here, it helps me to forgive what I did yesterday, but that doesn't mean I'm going to forget it. Because if I forget it, I won't learn from it. But I'll be able to share it to these brothers. So this 19, 20 years that we have apart, we can share with share with them these things of how to get over it. And my whole point is this: unless God builds a house in your life, your labors are in vain. The cross is something that changed my life, and I saw it, but I couldn't feel it until I was at a point of brokenness. And when you get to a point of being shattered and being broken, that's when really, really you're able to see God work through miracles in your life. And like that songwriter said, if it had not been for the Lord on my side, where would I be? And I say that to these brothers. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding, but acknowledge him in all your ways, and he shall direct your path.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Laurent, I want to ask you something. So Andrew touched on something deep, and I know you weren't able to have the conversation with us at the breakfast, but this is something that you've mentioned before, right? Andrew just gave us the who, what, when, where, how, and why of you as a person, right? Understanding really who you are. And that understanding comes after a period of time of self-reflection. Sometimes it comes from external factors, the people who are around us letting us know, hey, this is what I see inside of you. You shared a story with us about how when you were younger, they said that you had ADD or ADHD or something along those lines. Maybe you had some difficulties picking up certain concepts, things like that. But now you're a completely different person, I feel. What was that self-reflection? What did that look like for you to morph into who you are today? Like what barriers did you have to overcome internally? When did you realize actually who you are and why you are the way you are?
Wow. That's a very powerful question. And I don't know if I have enough time to unpack all of it, but this is what I will say. One of the things that truly helped me was accepting and understanding that we all were created different. And all of our differences are good. The things that we call weird are just different. It's unique. And once I understood that my difference was me and that I was okay how I was and that God made me this way, it allowed me to be okay with me. I understood that I'm not dumb. When I was told I was ADHD, ADD, had a learning disability, and I was held back in the second grade, when I used to get smacked upside my head, say, you stupid, because you said this right here, and I associated that with being dumb, yes, that did a lot of damage, but I didn't want to accept that. So once I, this is crazy, like, once I accepted the fact that I was different, once I understood that I'm not supposed to be like nobody else, it helped me to be myself with the weirdness about me. And it's only weird because we say it is. It's only weird to people because we're doing openly what they do secretly. So just accepting me, accepting you for being you. Like, you're not like everybody else. I talk to myself. You know, the other day I was talking to my daughter in the car, and my oldest daughter, and I asked her straight out, I said, baby, when you hear me talking to myself out loud, is that weird to you? And she looked at me and said, no, sir. But I said, when I'm talking to God, because she knows who I'm talking to, I said, does that make you feel different? Does that make you feel uncomfortable? She said, no, I know what you're doing. It's cool. But if I was so worried about the way that she looked at me or culture looks at me, then I wouldn't be myself. When I went to the grocery store, and I'll leave it at this. Check this out. I used to be ashamed of God, y'all. Let me say that again. LaRon Barnes, me, LaRon the Motivator, used to be ashamed of God. A preacher, a person who loved the Lord with his whole heart. To the point where I remember one day I was, and this is about being who you are, being you got to be comfortable who you are. I was so embarrassed because I used to get talked about because I would bust out in tongues. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. And people would look at me like, dude, what are you freaking doing? You're a weirdo. Dude, stop doing that. And so I started to get ashamed of that. And that brought me to a point where I was afraid to lift my hands in front of people. Well, one day I was in a grocery store and I felt the presence of God. I wanted to lift my hands and I kept them down. And I heard the Lord say to me this. He said, LaRon, if you are ashamed of me in front of men, I'll be ashamed of you in front of the Father.
That's right.
I was so condemned that day to where I said, you know what? I don't care what you look at me and laugh at me like no more. I'm going to be me because this is who I am. If you don't like it, oh, well, I'm not for everybody. And you got to say that. You're not for everybody. You're going to be you with your uniqueness, your weirdness, whatever you want to call it, is who you are. So be you and be comfortable being that person. And don't let nobody tell you that there's something wrong with that.
Love it. Love it. Love it. LaRon, who are you?
You know, I like how you left that a question and left it there without saying anything else behind it. Who are you? That's a very good question, and I don't want to go too deep because this is a deeper conversation. But let me say this. Here's the truth. Here's the truth. Truly, you are who you identify yourself as being.
But who are you?
Who am I?
Yes, that's what he asked. Who are you?
Watch this. Watch this. I ain't done yet. I'm a man of God. I'm a servant. I'm my brother's keeper. I'm a person who cares about you internally, for real. I'm a person who's not playing about the heart that I have for the people that I talk to. When I die, this is what I told my wife, and this is what I told my family, and this is what I'm telling the world. When I die, and they bury me 6 feet under, the only thing that I want and care about them saying about me is that was a man of God. Point blank, period. If you can say that about me, I did what I'm supposed to do on this earth.
Yes, sir. Lauren, what do you feel is a lot of men's hurdle in LaRon just expressed, meaning that he knows why he's here on earth. He's able to encapsulate that into a statement that says, before I die, as long as I do A, B, C, I've completed my mission. What hurdles do you feel a lot of men having in getting to that point?
I think the biggest hurdle is what we believe a man is called on to do in this world. Not everybody can be a tough guy, right? Not everybody could be a smart guy. Some of us are nurturers. Most of us are nurturers by nature. It's just a matter of what we choose to nurture. But that sounds soft, right? So we have this machismo attitude about, uh, men and masculinity and what masculinity even is. We try to push away from some of our, I guess I would say, feminine energy that we have. Uh, and so, when we deny parts of who we are, when we try to ignore parts of who we are, uh, it leads to a mindset of confusion. Uh, not understanding what direction and what paths that we're supposed to take in life in order to achieve, uh, the success that we want to have, while we live on this earth. I think that right there is the biggest hurdle that men face today, and really probably for generations that have preceded even now. It's just the definition of a man and what a man's uh, job is on this earth.
Mm. So, Andrew, you're the person that posed this question originally. Like, you always say it, and I almost have to take this from you, but nothing that we say is original or new, per se. These thoughts have been out there, they've been in existence, and we're just coming into them on our own, and flourishing and adding to. And so, what you heard from LaRon and from what you've heard from Lauren saying that you have to, it sounds like what I'm hearing is you first have to understand who you are before you can become anything. Otherwise, you are stuck because you don't know which way to go. It's like you're at a crossroads. I don't know if I turn left. I don't know if I turn right. So I'm just going to stand right here. Have you ever been in that place and that feeling? Are you there now? Were you there in the past? And if so, how did you get past it? And how would you advise someone else to take that first step into saying, this is who I am, and now not only who I am, but I need to turn left or I need to turn right? What does finding that direction look like?
So for me, finding that direction actually entailed journaling or writing a book. That book was the top 10 reasons why I refuse to say I love you. And it was titled that way because I was not saying I love you the way that others needed to hear it and feel it. I was not speaking anyone else's love language but mine. And my love language, what I discovered, was very selfish, was very self-centered, was very motive aided, and it had no love about it. It was about lust. It was about greed. It was about lust. It was about envy. It was about vainglory. It was about disbelief. It was about wrath. It was about all of my seven deadly sins plus two others. And it culminated in my stuckness, me going around and around trying to find myself. It culminated in just me being angry. So the chapter 10 was entitled D, as in how people will say duh, as in the anger. And there was apostrophe there. And when you take that apostrophe away, it actually said danger, because my anger was at a dangerous level. And I did not understand it until I actually looked at myself. So understanding self was my biggest win. Writing myself down was my biggest opportunity of seeing myself clearly. And then I had a choice, and choice became so real. That word became so real because I could either accept what came out of me, which was my truth, or I can keep looking for somebody else's truth and claim it as mine, going around chasing that illusion outside of me. And what I chose to do was I chose to accept my truth, accept me. And when I accepted me, that was the beginning of my opportunity to be me, in my fullest. So
I appreciate that. I appreciate you sharing that. Brother Mike, you have been so many different people. The more that I get to talk to you and get to know you and understand your life experience, You've been through a lot. I've known you for some years, and I would have to say in this past 6 months, I feel like I've learned more about you than I ever knew with all of that time previously combined. You've shared stories with me about your upbringing in Compton. You talked to me about your son that you lost, rest in peace. You have talked to me about being a married man, about being a single man. You've been the bodybuilder, and then you've gone to the other side of it and become the trainer. You have filled all these different roles. You've been the pastor. You've been the person that was in the audience being fed. You've been on both sides of it. How do you identify yourself? Who are you, and how did you begin to recognize exactly who you are outside of the services that you provide?
Well, and self-aggrandizement, I found out how much of a joy it was and it is today to serve. Um, because I had a complex, as I had said before, uh, my daughter and my father, we were going to my grandmother's funeral, and she was about 6 years old. She says, "Daddy, how come you don't look like Grandpa?" And so I had no answer. Daddy had no answer. And so I had a case of self-identification because I wanted to be like everybody else that I wasn't. I wore 32 all my career playing football because I wanted to be like O.J. Simpson, or I wanted to have the charismatic charisma of speaking like a Dr. King or even Muhammad Ali. I couldn't find myself until myself found me in a place where I had nobody else to emulate other than being who I became over time, and that's being a servant. Um, I'm here to serve, and now serving in the right way. And see, there's a time in bodybuilding and the whole thing of flowers and things being thrown at you. You did this and you did that. Man, that stuff only lasts for so long. But I found out when I've touched somebody's life, and when they some years later come and say how much they appreciated it. And I didn't do it now. I did it at that point probably because selfish reasons. But right now, I do it just to lay seeds. And if I can lay a seed in my young brothers and the people around me into their lives and my sisters the right way, that I've done the things that I'm supposed to do. It's about serving. That's how I found out who I was, that I didn't have to look like anybody. But somewhere I read that let us make man in our likeness and our image. I'm the likeness and I'm the imagery of God. I'm supposed to represent, and which I try to every day, that likeness and that imagery of God. Now, if I can just do that with the size of a faith of a mustard seed, that's I wouldn't say good enough because that's all I know, but that's something I seek after to do. And so I want to be a great father. I want to be a great grandfather, pawpaw, those types of things. And so I just want to be the best that I can. But most of all, I want to do it to serve, to help. That's who I am, and that's where I came from. Experiences.
I appreciate that. And for those of you that are watching, like you've heard, 4 different men kind of share their own personal testimony on finding themselves and who they are, and understanding that the first step to getting unstuck is really having a clear understanding of where you are today, who you are, and where you want to be. I really resonate with one thing that you said, Brother Mike, and that's that you had nobody to emulate, and that's when you found yourself. I believe that in certain ways we do have to go through a period of whether it's seclusion, reflection, just being in our own space without influences and without different factors that are helping us to determine or shape who we are. I believe is important. I went through that myself, and So I was just you. You know, at one point, you know, I wanted to be the best basketball player, and then I wanted to be the best party promoter, and then I wanted to, you know, be a businessman. There's all these things that I wanted to be, and all of them were attached to another person's dream or their own reality. And then I myself reached a point where none of those people were around, and I had to reinvent myself. And that's when I began to really understand who I am at my core and what I want out of life, you know. And so
I got,
when I think about the question of yes,
now I got a
go
question to
ahead.
ask you when you're done. When you're done, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Are you there? I'm sorry to
What
interrupt
was
you.
your question?
I had a
Yeah.
question to ask. Do you think that God has ever set you down and put you in timeout because you were going the wrong way?
Yeah.
He did. He took
Yep.
some things in your family
More than once.
and said, "Shut up!
More than
Not
once.
going. You're not going there. No." And he never says really not. No, he says not yet. This is not your time. I'm gonna put you in timeout. I'm gonna make you rely on me and quit now fooling yourself, relying on your own flesh and the carnality of you. But I'm about to sit yourself down and you're just gonna shut up for how long it takes until you understand the importance of me in your life. And that's an important part of your life that I'm going to use for serving me. Has he ever done that to you?
Yes. And I would even say for someone who doesn't have the same spiritual connection, meaning that um, in their life, you know, God and the Bible isn't their guide. I do believe that a lot of men hit that point at various times in their lives where nothing's working. No matter how hard they try, it isn't working, and they have to start trying to determine a different direction. And I believe that that's where you've been sat down, right? Where you've been going and you've been going, you've been going, you aren't getting the results that you want. You're growing increasingly frustrated. A lot of times as men, we lash out at the people around us. And so it may be the man who has alienated his family, who has a woman that he isn't loving or pouring into, a man who has children that he neglects. I believe that those are all situations where a man ends up in a spot where he has to sit and really begin to reflect on who he is, and where he's going. And in that moment where you're sat down and you have nowhere to go and things aren't working out, the only thing that you can do is begin to ask yourself the questions that Andrew proposed earlier: is who am I? Why? What am I doing? Where am I going? When? How am I going to get there? And creating a plan of action. And not just a plan, but a plan of action, because a dream is just a dream until you write it down, and then it becomes a plan. But then a plan does nothing for you until you put action with it. And so that sitting down really is a period of time where you realize that I need a plan of action, and I'm willing to actually go through the process of carrying those steps out. It looks different for everybody. I've been, you know, like you said, have I been sat down more than once? I had a family that, because of my own doings, I lost at one point, right? I have business ventures that have failed. Um, I have lost people in my life that probably should have been there for longer because of things that I did or did not do. And so, yeah, I've been sat down several times. I believe that everybody gets sat down several times over the course of their life because none of us get it right. And so, yeah, I appreciate that question. We got a question here from the audience. I definitely want to connect with those people. Christopher Williams, thanks for tuning in. Christina, Dead, she says, Men Hill lifted KC. Be sure that you check her out. D Hart, this is the question that I like for us to, if possible. I just wait for that to come up. It says, how can we help alter young? 1 second, computer froze up. Okay, how can we help or alter young men? Talk it out, be friends afterwards, and no vengeful reactions later. That's most definitely a big problem in our community. And as we've been talking tonight about men being able to connect, trust each other, etc., inevitably, as men who have their own vision for life, who have their own way of doing things, at some point you are going to have that interaction that's uncomfortable, where you don't agree. How do you, and this can be anyone, how do you have those conversations and still remain friends? How do you have conflict and then afterwards say we're still brothers? What does that look like?
I'll take a stab at some of that. The movie Black Panther, the first one. Do y'all recall when the captain of the guard was facing off with her lover? They were fighting, the men versus the women, and the boyfriend or her lover, he asked, would you kill me over the, would you kill me? She said, for the throne, no questions. I'm paraphrasing, but he looked around and he saw all this war, all this fighting. And this is how I interpreted his moment. What he did was he took his sword and he dropped it. Many people don't understand when people do that, when they wave. The way that I understood that was in medieval times, the wave basically says, I don't have a weapon in my hand. I come in peace. I'm not here for war. I come in peace. So to drop one's weapon, whatever that weapon might be your tongue. That weapon might be your quick wit. That weapon might be your remembrance of this person and what they always did. That weapon might be the fact that you continuously remind them of something that's echoing in their life every second, which is they want to change it. They're no good. I know I did wrong. But your echoing is just only louder and louder, which makes that loudness angrier and angrier. What I'd ask for you to consider is, instead of arguing, somebody has to stop so that the word arguing will actually turn into one argue. And that one argue will actually run out of words when there's no counter argue coming. And that argue will stop. As far as vengeful reactions or being friends, in order to be friends, those words, you have to be a friend. And that friend might not be what you think a friend is. That friend might be someone who is silent, even in that person's presence, meaning, hey, I cannot change your heart. I cannot change your mind. How can I help? And when I say, how can I help? That does not mean that you are their doormat and that you're going to give them things that they're throwing at that hole. It's okay to say no when they ask, but it is okay to give them reason that the only reason I'm saying no to giving you money is because you're going to go out and do that with it. I can take that money and I can buy whatever it is you're looking for and give it to whoever you want to give it to. That even sounds argumentative right there. So forgive me for trying to think about this in the moment. But what I am trying to do is to de-escalate the anger. Because like I said in the 10th chapter of my book, that was the beginning of what I considered love. My love was actually my wrath. I was lustful, I was vengeful, I was angry, I was sloth-filled, I was envious. All those things were not love, but that's what was coming out of me. And that was the danger. That was the beginning of what was coming out of me. So I had to learn my beginning before I actually changed my direction. So D, it takes two to tangle or two to fight. Maybe one would actually stop fighting.
For me, I would say it goes back to this conversation that we've been having for the past hour here, is knowing who you are and knowing yourself and understanding when you've stepped outside of that. and reeling it back in. And so when you talk about two people who are having rough interactions, like things aren't clicking, it really comes to a point of understanding that, hey, I'm not this person, or I am this person. I'm a warrior, right? And I'm ready to knock somebody's head off. I'm filled with anger. Actually recognizing that before it happens, and then thinking about potential outcomes. And so, yes, I'm angry. Yes, I'm a warrior. Yes, I want to knock your head off. What are the outcomes of that? And is that something that I'm willing to deal with? And 9 times out of 10, if we're honest with ourselves, we'll say no. The bravado that a lot of men have will tell them that, man, I don't care about the consequences of my actions. I'm going to knock his head off. If it goes too far, I'm going to pull out my weapon. Whatever happens, happens. But the truth of the matter is nobody wants to be in jail, rot away in jail. No one wants those types of end results. And so a really point of understanding yourself, what you're willing to go through, what you're not willing to go through, when it's time to lay down your sword because the stakes are too high. Andrew, I'm sorry, Mike, you had something?
I want to bring this to a thought process. Anger management is difficult when you have come from a sea of hurt. Can you imagine this brother at Southwest Virginia State going on a field trip with ex-football players, and they're going on a field trip to a theatric field trip of observation, and you have two that are somewhat awake, one that's asleep, and this brother pulls out a gun and shoots the life out of them. And the way that it looked by the investigation, and is still under thorough investigation, independent investigation, he had a motive to take these men out. What would get in a person's mind other than a demonic spirit? And I just believe that the God of this world, and the Bible speaks of the satanic mind, the reprobate mind. You have some people right now who are so embraced in so much of a shackle and so much zipped up in a point of hate that they've come from. They cannot release it in any other way. And so this whole point of guarding your heart, guarding yourself, has to be imminent for the believer, because we don't know when situation. This is not a scare tactic or anything like that, but our armor we have to have on is that our prayer life has to be at a point where we feel confident that God is going to take care of us, because we don't know when someone may snap. I don't have a point of now the discipline of anger management to manage their anger. And then we look at the girls that got stabbed to death. Who does that and then lives to tell about it? It's not the point of something of the repercussions and now the things that's going to happen after that. They're going something in their mind, in their space that they live in right now, based off something they came from. And those are the things that we grapple about, man, because I can love you, but that doesn't mean I have to like you and I'll have to be around you. But if you do something that snaps and you really piss me off, I can't tell you what's going to happen after I put my hands on you or we come close to even doing that.
Yeah. I mean, what we never want to do is take temporary circumstances and make permanent decisions.
But that's thinking rational, brother. That's thinking rational. What happens when you are in an irrational situation or in an irrational condition?
There's a comment here that we most definitely can't overlook. And I see you guys here. Ryan, thanks to appreciate you. For anyone who's watching, definitely follow him, Ryan S. Harvey. He's one of the best motivational speakers that I've ever heard in person. Wonderful guy. So definitely follow him. But he says, I've definitely laid down my sword when my daughter was raped, could have used the sword of anger. And so first and foremost, I have no idea how I would respond in that situation. My mind tells me one thing, but we never know until we're there. And so if you be able to control yourself in that type of situation is commendable, to say the least. Wow. I just want to make sure we definitely gave to that comment there. Anger is real, man, and your ability to wield it and use it for evil. Andrew, you had something that you wanted to say?
Yeah, a couple of things. Ryan, man, thank you for making the choices that you made for the reasons that you made, so that you can actually continue doing what you do to show people, for one, that the power of choice is real. And whatever that story is, there's even more that we can learn from it. I already know that. What I wanted to add to that is when we talk about men's anger and that danger, chapter 10 of my book actually talks about, it was a culmination of other people's testimonies and stories, but this one was the most power-filled, in my opinion. This one woman told me that her and her husband used to, she hit him, he'd hit her, he'd hit her, she'd hit him. They're forever battling. And she also broke it down saying, I only wanted to help him. I'm a nurturer at heart. I took the vows. I love him. I still love him. And I only wanted to help him. Whenever he was struggling, I'd come there, honey, what can I do? And she said, what I learned from that, God said, hold on, stop. Don't nurture. Don't love him through this. Don't come into that room, because the fight that he's in ain't got nothing to do with you. Remember, we talked about a couple of series ago about men's battles, man's battle with God, man's battle with self, and then man's battle with his partner. And that's usually because she walks into one of these two battles that are already taking place. He's already in the middle of it. And all she sees is, oh, damn, I need to help him. So she starts removing earrings, taking the wig off, putting Vaseline on, and she jumps right in. How can I help you? And then she catches an elbow from him because she came in at the wrong angle. She says, damn, I'm just trying to help you. And he's like, move, because you're in my way. And then he turns his wrath to her because she has now distracted him from his battle. And now it seems as if this right here is going on. But what she said was, God said, hey, stop and just watch him. And he was swinging and he was cussing and he was fighting. And then he was tired because he wasn't hitting anything. And when the dust settled, she came over and she brought him a bowl of soup or some tea or whatever and just laid it there. And when the dust settled and he was just tired, he opens his eyes. He did not see her as the distraction or the enemy.
Andrew, I got to ask you, do you feel that a lot of men don't even know the enemy that they're fighting?
Yes.
Like they're fighting an unidentified enemy, because we're talking about knowing yourself, so that you can move forward.
Exactly.
Unknown enemies. Like what are some of those? So
that enemy, if you take the ENE off and put the INNER there and take the Y off, it's not the enemy, it's the inner me. It's the inner me that I am battling. A lot of people want to place blame on what it could be, but it is me. It's my choices. It's my lack of choices. It's my lack of understanding. It's where I want to be. It's all the things that are inside of me that are now loud, that are now anxious, that are now depressed, that are now wanting, that are now here. And because I have absolutely no order of a semblance, I can't recognize this. I've been fighting it for years. So that says that I don't have an answer. I am now losing this battle daily and I want to win. So this inner me it's just, oh man, this inner me is now diseased and is ill and is hurting. And someone actually comes and says, how can I help? What can I do? And all I'm going on is what I think I need. Well, I need $20 million. I need to hit the Powerball, or I just need some sex, or no, I don't know what I need, because I don't know that I'm fighting me. I don't know that if I just, hey, stop fighting. Recognize who you are, why you are, when you are, how you got there. Recognize so that you can accept what you are doing, why you are doing, and choose either to continue to fight or to do something different.
Mm-hmm. Lauren, I've got to ask you, man, have you ever been in that position where you felt like you were battling internally? And if so, how did you get away from your inner me and dispel that so that it's outside of you now and you can grow as a new me?
You know, every battle starts internal. Every battle ends internally. You know, when we're able to get inside of ourselves to understand the source of the struggle, right? That's when we can begin to move into how we help heal. And whether we self heal, or whether we go to counseling, or whether we just have a confidant that, you know, we can kind of talk through the process. The first piece of it is identifying, right? And then once we identify, and once we have those conversations and come up with solutions, then we have to go back inside of ourselves to take all of this new wisdom and create new habits and new thoughts that ultimately become new actions, right? Referencing back to Dee's comment, how can we help the next generation, the youth? We help them by modeling the behavior that we want them to do. Ultimately, that's how we help them. You know, when you talk about, black men, right? And we talk about, uh, what's modern day slavery. Modern day slavery is, I am so angry that I take that man's life. And then as a result of breaking the law, they now incarcerate me. So I have now lost a part of my life that I can't get back, because now I'm in jail while my kids are over here, running around in the world, right? Because they have no covering for me, because I'm somewhere that I shouldn't be, because my anger allowed me not only to take somebody else's life, but also took a part of mine. And ultimately, I took a part of other people's too, that were looking up to me to help guide them in the right direction, right? So it's a circle, right? That's why they call it the circle of life, and that's why we have to have, this right here, right? This, in a way, can become that conversation that you have with your confidant, or somebody that you have respect for, that you're willing to listen to. Because if you're not willing to listen to somebody and take their advice, it's kind of a waste of both parties' time. So you have to be willing. You have to turn off your own self in order to receive what someone else is trying to provide. And that inner me that we keep talking about, the growth of that inner me is, again, fed by understanding, right? The source of the pain, the source of the problem, getting the help that you need, and creating new habits internally in order to action what has happened as a result of.
Mm-hmm. LaRon, I want to end with you. How do you get out of your own way?
You skipped out on the
when it
last
comes
one.
to the internal battle? Mm-hmm. When it comes to that internal battle that we all deal with, that internal battle, how do you get out of your own way? A lot of times we're in our own way when it comes to it, because we've created an identity around ourselves that says, I do X, Y, and Z, and that's who I am. So for the example of violence, if you have self-identified as someone who just doesn't take any BS, and if you step to me, this is what you're going to get.
Yeah.
At some point, you have to find a way to step outside of that, or you end up imploding. You create your own destruction, your own detriment, as Lauren alluded to. That anger and that identity that says, don't mess with me, ends up coming out in a situation where now you possibly have taken someone else's life, right? And then in turn, your life is taken. And so, how do you get out of your own way so that you don't allow what's inside of you to actually destroy you?
Well, the first thing I'll say is you have to want to heal. You have to want to change. You have to want to be different. You have to want it. The first thing is identifying it. First thing is wanting it. And then you have to be able to identify it. Because the truth of the matter is that we can't change what we can't identify. And what we don't want to change won't change. Some of us are okay. Some of us have been I know people who have been talked down to so much in their life. Now that they've gotten bold, they won't let anyone say anything to them because now they're so aggressive. But we have to recognize, hey, I'm going a little overboard here. Hey, you know what? This is actually not really helping my life. This is not helping me by boiling the anger. This is not helping me from the outcome that it gives. If it's detrimental to your life in any negative way or your future, we have to say, you know what? I have to do something different because what I'm doing is not working. It's not helping. And one of the greatest things that I've discovered, thank you. Look, I almost started thanking the Lord. Thank you, Lord. I'm going to say it right now. And the question goes back to, let me just make sure I'm saying this, getting out your own way, right? Correct, Andrew? Make sure I'm saying that right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The thing that I've discovered that is that getting out of your own way truly is, and this is the most important thing, I'll say it one last time, it's identifying it, what it is, and wanting it. Those are the two things you have to identify it, and you have to truly want it. And then when you run into situations that are putting you in reactive mode, my favorite book says, resist temptation and it will flee. If something is tempting you to anger or act out of character, resist it. Remove yourself from the situation because we know what we are able to handle and what we can't handle. So I'll just leave it at that.
I appreciate that. I think that one thing that you can kind of look at is, results over your identity, right? Like, what result do I want? And is the result that I want more importantly than the identity that I want to portray, right? That's huge. That's huge. It's a great question. We're definitely at our time for today. And so before we go, I want to see if you guys have any final thoughts, comments, words, promotions, anything that you got going on that you want to let the audience know about before we convene this evening. And please stay on afterwards so we can debrief. But Lauren, I'll go ahead and start with you.
Absolutely. Listen, go follow LaRon the Motivator. You got to follow that for your daily motivation and inspiration. It is a place where you can be motivated, inspired, and get your head in the right place. Also, you can follow The Balanced Entrepreneur for all my entrepreneurs who knows what it is, knows the struggle. I want you to follow that page where we motivate, inspire, encourage as well, but also put out resources and really build our own personal brands and business through this group right here, The Balanced Entrepreneur. I love you all. I can't wait to see y'all in the groups and on the other side.
Andrew, what do you have going on? How can people find you? Any final words or thoughts?
So, restin2050.org. Please check out the website. Leave a comment, email me. Let's talk, let's communicate, let's connect. But more so, what I would want to leave our audience and others is a few powerful words that have lost their place in today's society. One is please. The other one is thank you. The other one is you're welcome. How many times have somebody said thank you and you said, yeah, it's good, or no problem? You're welcome. And the last one is I'm sorry. Connecting with people it doesn't cost money. Connecting with people, you don't have to be dressed a certain way. Connecting with people, you don't have to have the biggest house or even a car at all. Connecting with people is a sincere emotional desire. Please, thank you, you're welcome, I'm sorry. Those, when said right and meant, they go a long way.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Lojo.
You know what? No personal plugs tonight. Here's what I want to say. To every person that has joined this podcast, even for 30 seconds, right? I want to say thank you for giving myself and my brothers the opportunity to serve you, to feed off of our vulnerability and allow yourself a second to be vulnerable. You know, it is very, very challenging in today's society to be vulnerable because of the judgment and backlash that we may face. But nonetheless, the vulnerability allows us to continue. It allows us to continue to self heal in some ways. And it allows us to impact others along their journeys as we go on our journey. So thank you.
Love it. And then Amayo Johnson, I appreciate each and every one of you. Like I said, Thanksgiving is this week, and so it's a time for us to reflect on the things that we're grateful for. It's a great point of the year for us to look back on what went right, what went wrong, and start making decisions, changes, moves, implementing strategies so that our next year can be even better. And so if you're someone who feels that you need help with that, meaning that you want to connect with other men that can help you in that journey, because I can't tell you how much it's helped me personally to know that there are other men on the same path as me, improving their lives, being better fathers, better husbands, better friends, better community leaders. Join us, Elevating Men. You can follow our page on Facebook. You can also catch up on our archived conversations on YouTube. But connect with us and understand that we're not just a podcast. It goes far beyond that. I can't even express to you the number of phone calls and text messages and inbox messages that I get from men and that we get collectively asking, hey, I'm dealing with this problem. How do I get past it? I just need someone to talk to. And so I want to make sure that we extend that offer to everyone who's listening. And if you know someone, if you're connected to a man or a young man who's trying to find his way, remember Elevating Men. Keep us in mind, and that we are a resource for those people. And so, again, we appreciate you as always. Next week, we'll be here Monday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And in between now and then, make sure that you do something for yourself. And by that, I mean take a moment to evaluate your own mental health, where you're at today, where you want to be, start creating a plan on how you can get there and put it into action. Again, we appreciate every one of you. You all have a great, and we'll see you next time.